At 12:30 a.m. local time, Bojokovo, Russia, 120 miles from the Kremlin, Igor Sechin, Russia oil king, is about to face Putin earth-shaking fury because he had just received news that Ukraine had launched a 2-pound warhead to destroy Russia's $3 billion oil pipeline. The Ryazan-Moscow pipeline is the steel artery of Russia's war machine. This 120-mile-long artery pumps 1.2 million barrels of refined fuel per day into Moscow, supplying an estimated 30% of the gasoline and diesel that keeps the Russian army tanks rolling and its jets flying. To Russia, it is a $3 billion lifeline. To Ukraine, it is a single point of failure. And getting a drone this close was not a fluke. It is the final move in a game that started weeks ago. Ukraine Military Intelligence Directorate orchestrated this strike like a master hunter. Fed a steady diet of United States satellite data, they mapped the pipeline entire path, identifying this exact weak spot near Bojokovo. By mid-August, the entire plan was locked, hit at 12:30 a.m., when the late summer fog rolls in at a cool 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Russian sentries are fighting off their third cup of lukewarm coffee. Naturally, the Russians guard this thing like it is the last slice of pizza on Earth. On the operator tactical map, the pipeline is a thin green line running through a terrifying spider web of red. That web is woven by Russia Best. The S-400 air defense system, with its 92 N6E radar, can spot a fighter jet 250 miles away at 40,000 feet, but it struggles with tiny drones hugging the ground at 130 feet. Backing it up is the Krasuka-4, a beast of an electronic warfare system that can blanket 190 miles in jamming signals. But here is the dirty little secret physics does not want the Kremlin to know. Those billion-dollar systems are designed to look up. The Ukrainian drone flying at 130 feet is hugging the ground so tight it is practically mowing the lawn. 11:15 p.m., August 25, 2025, Russia-Belarus border. An hour before the strike, the first pieces of the chessboard began to move. Under the cover of darkness, Ukrainian operators launched a flock of 15 Mugen 5 decoy drones. They are basically plywood lawnmowers with wings, each costing about $500. Their job was to fly loud, fly dumb, and die spectacularly, pulling the eyes of Russia Air Defense Network away from the real show. But this was not just a simple decoy run. At the exact same moment, a second, far more lethal wave of long-range Lyut drones launched toward a completely different target, the massive oil refinery in Ryazan. This is where the real 4D chess begins, and it poses a classic tactical question for all you strategists watching. If you were the Ukrainian commander, would you risk your valuable long-range drones on a real secondary strike against the refinery, inflicting bonus damage but potentially losing them, or would you play it safe and just use them as a noisy feint to guarantee the main FPV gets through? Ukraine decided to go for the jugular on both. While all this chaos was unfolding in the sky, the real ace in the hole was already deep inside Russia. A beat-up unmarked panel truck, looking like it belonged to a local bakery, crept to a stop in a dense patch of woods just 12 miles from the Bojokovo pipeline section. Inside, sitting in custom-built racks, were the 2 FPV Rybov drones, each spooled with a 12-meter-long fiber optic cable. This truck was a mobile launch platform, a Trojan horse on wheels. For the driver, every pothole was a potential mission failure. Every pair of passing headlights was a potential firefight. They sat in absolute silence, waiting for the signal. Their mission, to launch the final surgical strike once the S-400 systems were busy looking the other way. 12:05 a.m. Inside a concrete bunker buried 30 feet underground, a Russian radar operator console lights up with alerts. 15 slow-moving targets are approaching from the northwest. The Mugen 5 decoys. At the same time, a second group of faster contacts appears heading directly for the Ryazan oil refinery. The crew responds by the book. The commander orders the Krasuka-4 electronic warfare system to full power. A massive bubble of jamming energy washes over the area, and the cheap Mugen drones immediately begin to fail, their control links severed on the screens. Their icons flicker and die. The Panzer S-1 anti-aircraft systems engage the survivors, shredding them with cannon fire. Simultaneously, the powerful S-400 launchers, freed from the decoy distraction, fire a salvo of missiles at the refinery attackers, turning the inbound Lyut drones into fireballs. Within minutes, every hostile target on the board is gone. It is a clean sweep, a perfect defense. But the Russian commander is not celebrating. He stares at the tactical display, a feeling of unease growing. His systems had performed exactly as designed, yet the attack felt wrong. The decoy wave was too simple, too obvious. The refinery strike, while a real threat, was a predictable target. The entire operation felt like a brute force distraction. "It is a feint," he says, his voice cutting through the quiet bunker. "This is too loud. They are trying to make us look one way so they can sneak something in somewhere else." He turns to a map displaying all critical infrastructure in their sector. His eyes trace the green line representing the Ryazan-Moscow pipeline. It is quiet. Too quiet. "Get an Orlan 10 in the air now," he orders. The Orlan is a small, quiet reconnaissance drone, perfect for searching for low-altitude threats that the big S-400 radars might miss. "I want it sweeping the Bojokovo corridor. Tell the pilot to fly low and use his thermal camera. Anything moving under 200 feet, I want to know about it. Find me what they are trying to hide." The hunter had just realized he was being hunted. 17 hours. From the back of the truck, the first Rybov drone slides out on a silent pneumatic rail and disappears into the 50-degree fog. Its small electric motor barely makes a sound as it begins its 12-millimeter high-speed dash to the target, unspooling a thin fiber optic cable behind it. Suddenly, a new icon flashes on the Ukrainian operator screen, accompanied by an urgent proximity warning. It is the Orlan 10. The reconnaissance drone is already in the air, actively sweeping the flight corridor with its thermal camera, specifically hunting for a low-flying intruder. The Ukrainian operator does not hesitate. He pushes the stick forward, sending the Rybov into a gut-wrenching dive, dropping its altitude until it is skimming just feet above the treetops. This is a high-stakes tactic known as terrain masking, using the rolling hills and dense forests of the Russian countryside as physical cover to hide from the Orlan prying eyes above. This is no longer a simple bombing run. It is a deadly game of cat and mouse. Every open field is a death trap. Every river crossing is a moment of total vulnerability. The operator is flying blind, relying completely on his drone onboard AI and thermal camera to navigate a pitch-black landscape at 60 miles per hour, all while being stalked from above. The Rybov drone only advantage is its unjammable connection. While the Orlan 10 is forced to communicate through the electronic chaos of the Krasuka 4, the Ukrainian pilot has a crystal-clear lag-free 4K video feed thanks to his fiber optic tether. It is the one thing keeping him one step ahead of the hunter. The duel in the dark intensifies. The first Rybov drone is a blur of motion weaving through the forest, but the Orlan 10 is relentless, sticking to it like a shadow. The Ukrainian pilot knows he cannot stay in the trees forever. He sees a gap, a wide-open farmer field he has to cross. It is a 30-second dash in a kill zone. He has no choice. The moment the Rybov breaks cover, the Orlan thermal camera gets a perfect, unobstructed lock. The Russian operator instantly transmits the drone exact speed, altitude, and heading to the Panzer S-1 battery miles away via an encrypted data link. Panzer computer gets the data and calculates an intercept solution in milliseconds. A 5.76 missile roars off the Panzer S-1 at 2,300 miles per hour, its guidance system locking onto the drone predicted path. The Ukrainian pilot sees the launch warning and yanks the stick hard left, throwing the drone into a violent high-G evasion. The drone survives. The missile screams past, missing by inches. But the victory is short-lived. The extreme maneuver was too much for the fiber optic cable. Under the immense strain, the thin glass thread snaps. On the screen in Kiev, the crystal-clear 4K video feed instantly dissolves into a blizzard of static. The game was over. The first drone plows into the Russian countryside a few seconds later. The loss is a gut punch, but the tactical implication is far worse. That snapped fiber optic cable just became a 12-mile-long breadcrumb trail leading right back to their launch position. The Orlan 10 pilot does not need to see the truck. He just needs to follow the dead cable to its source. An urgent encrypted message flashes from the main command center to the laptop inside the panel truck. Position compromised. Evacuate now. Inside the truck, the driver slams the vehicle into gear, tires churning mud as he begins a desperate escape. But the mission is not over. As the truck bounces violently through the forest, the second operator makes a split-second decision that goes against every rule in the book. He initiates a hot launch. He bypasses the standard pre-flight checks and fires the pneumatic catapult. The second Rybov drone is shot out into the foggy night, while the truck is still moving. This is an incredibly risky maneuver. The drone inertial navigation system has to recalibrate in mid-air, trying to figure out its starting point, while that starting point is a moving target. For several critical seconds, the drone wobbles, its AI fighting to establish a stable flight path. The second pilot holds his breath, watching the telemetry flicker wildly. Their launch team is now racing away. The fate of this entire $3 billion mission now rests on a single drone launched in desperation, flying completely, utterly on its own. The second Rybov drone steadies itself, its gyros finally compensating for the chaotic launch on the move. Inside the bouncing panel truck, the scene is pure controlled chaos. The driver, his knuckles white, swerves between trees, his entire focus on escape. In the back, the pilot strapped into a seat, FPV goggles clamped to his face. His whole world has shrunk to the 10-inch 4K screen in front of him. Every violent lurch of the truck is a jolt he has to fight with his fingertips to keep the drone flying straight. The fiber optic cable is now unspooling from a vehicle that is speeding away from the target. It is a logistical nightmare, a constant battle against physics and cable tension. Meanwhile, the Russian response is a storm of steel. The Orlan 10 pilot, having confirmed the first drone crash site, is now methodically flying a grid pattern back along the dead fiber optic cable path, hunting for them. The truck encrypted communications crackle to life with an update from HUAR command. VDV units converging on your last known position. They are setting up a dragnet. The pilot knows the original cautious flight path is a death trap. There is only one option left, a straight-line pedal to the metal dash for the target, right across open country. He pushes the drone even lower to just 50 feet, a suicidal altitude that pushes the AI flight controller to its absolute limit. It is this desperate move that saves him. The Orlan 10, flying its search pattern at 500 feet, is looking down at the forest canopy searching for the truck. It is completely blind to the tiny Rybov screaming along below it. But then the Russian commander gets his breakthrough. The Orlan 10 pilot, frustrated, widens his search. His thermal camera sweeps across the landscape and suddenly locks onto something else, a long, unnaturally straight line glowing with a faint residual heat. The pipeline. In the bunker, the commander blood runs cold. The clumsy decoys, the refinery attack, the low-level intruders. It all clicks into place. It was never about the refinery. It was all a setup. The target is the pipeline. He screams into his headset. All assets engage the Bojakovo corridor. Find him. Find him now. Inside the truck, the pilot hears the roar of the Orlan engine through the thin metal roof as it banks sharply overhead. He has been spotted. He has seconds. Through his goggles, he sees it. The cold steel curve of the 40-inch pipeline gleaming faintly in the fog. The final 3 seconds of the mission have just begun. The entire Russian defense network is now converging on his exact location. It is a drag race to the finish line, and the prize is a $3 billion explosion. At 12:25 hours, the Rybov drone slams into the pipeline. Its 2-pound-shaped charge is a precision surgical tool. What happened next was not just an explosion. It was a firestorm that lit up the night. High-pressure gasoline aerosolized by the violent rupture instantly mixes with the air, creating a massive fuel-air bomb. The heat from the impact ignites it. A 300-foot fireball erupts into the night sky, turning the foggy landscape into broad daylight. A 50 psi shockwave tears through, shredding the pipeline steel skin. Designed for internal pressure, it buckles under the external blast, splitting open for 200 feet as fire races down the line. Inside the fleeing bakery truck, the pilot rips his goggles off. He cannot see the fireball, but he can feel it. The shock wave hits the truck like a physical fist, nearly throwing it off the road. They did not just hit the target, they vaporized it. For the next several hours, the fire rages, fed by an unstoppable torrent of fuel. The damage is catastrophic. Initial estimates put the repair cost at $50 million, but the real pain comes from the $250 million in lost fuel and economic disruption. The strategic fallout was immediate. Within days, Moscow gas stations started hanging no fuel signs. The Russian military Southern Front, which relied on that pipeline for 30% of its fuel, suddenly saw its supply chain dry up. Tanks cannot roll on empty promises. A $12,000 investment of cheap decoys and 2 high-tech FPV drones just deleted a $3 billion strategic asset and hobbled an entire army group. Russia learned a valuable lesson that night. Do not poke the Ukrainian bear, especially when it has a PhD in engineering and is not afraid to get its hands dirty. One truck, one drone, one very bad morning for Moscow. So, what should the history books call this insane mission? Drop your best operation name in the comments below. Operation Pipeline Panic. The Moscow gas shortage.